Hello, my name is Rachel and I'm here today to film my goals video for 2022. This is going to be my reading goals and my writing goals. I want to kind of have a place where all of those are so I can look back on it and hopefully make myself do them throughout the year. So I'm going to start with reading goals because I know a lot of people probably only care about the reading goals on here, and then I will talk a little bit about my writing goals as well. So for 2021, I don't even think I had reading goals. My only reading goals was to hit 24 books read this year, and as I have just filmed a video explaining, and you will see, maybe before, maybe after, I don't know, I am going to hit that goal. We're going to do that because it's the only goal that I have. But other than that, yeah, I didn't really have any reading goals this year. The start of this year was all the COVID stuff and there's a lot going on. We didn't fuck with goals. My reading this year has been few and far between. I think because I wasn't at work properly, I got out of the habit of listening to audiobooks at work, which is a way that I read a hell of a lot of the books that I read. I also have been saving money because I'm getting married next year, and so I've not been buying as many books, and the books that I tend to buy more over the last few years are graphic novels and poetry and things like that, which are the books that I lean towards reading, so I really enjoy them, but I don't have an excess of them because I don't have a lot of them, and because I'm not buying them, I'm not reading them. And then the other thing is I now live in my own place with my fiance, and so I'm not at home with all my books. All my books are still at my mum and dad's because we just like live in a flat, so I can't afford to have them all here space wise. I already have too many here and get shouted at a lot about it. All of these things have factored in to mean I haven't read very much, and also my writing's been going well. I've had some things published, it's been very exciting. I've had a lot of guilt towards reading and constantly feeling like whenever I'm reading I should be writing. Whenever I try and do a YouTube video I should be writing, and so it means that I've had so much guilt about it that I've not really done anything other than write, which, like I said, has done me well this year. I've been very much enjoying it. I've got myself a lot further on my writing journey, but it does mean that I've not been doing the things I enjoy, and reading helps so much with writing anyway that there's no reason to sacrifice reading for writing. We're trying to be more efficient this year. We're trying to not focus everything into one thing and kind of, yeah, just take everything, do everything in moderation and not go excessively just on writing, because I don't think that's very good for me. And it just ends up that I like sit at my desk and don't write for like 2 hours until I manage to motivate myself to write for the last hour. That's not conducive to spending your time well or productivity, which I'm very much about productivity. So we're trying to be more efficient and more driven with the time that we're spending. So I'm not going to be spending as much time on writing, because that 3 hours we're just going to condense down to the 1 hour that I do writing and not spend 2 hours building myself up to it. We're not doing that anymore. That can be in writing goals anyway. We're going to start with reading goals. So first reading goal is I'm going to be setting my Goodreads goal to 50 books. I filmed videos before saying that I didn't like putting targets on my reading, and I don't, and before I didn't need them. However, this target is less about me hitting a number and more about me reading books. It's very easy for me to hit 50 books if I'm actually reading. I've hit like 100, 120, like it's easy for me because I read a lot of graphic novels, I read a lot of poetry, and I read a lot of audiobooks. So these are things that are very easy to get through. They just end up piling up. I think 50 books should be an easy target for me to hit. Yeah, it just kind of keeps me on track, which is what I want. I want to be on track with things. First goal is I want to read 50 books this year. The next one is that I want to do more reading towards writing. The only reading that I have been doing is this, and it kind of means that I don't track it because it's difficult to track. But by this I mean reading short stories. So I've got into writing short stories. I had a short story published in a book, which was very exciting. Yeah, I was just reading a lot more short stories to kind of get used to the format and get a little bit more understanding about how to structure a short story, because I hadn't really written very many of them. I have read a lot of short stories this year, but they're not books, so I don't count them towards my Goodreads goal, so they don't really count. The magazines that I read tend to be on Goodreads anyway. Like, I read Pop Shop magazines, I read Lucid Dreaming, I read Granta. They're very like big established magazines that send out basically a book. So I think what I'm going to try and do is work my way through them and actually just log the full magazine as a book that I've read and do it that way. I think that'll work a lot better. And it means that I'm still managing to track things. So yeah, I want to still be reading a lot of short stories. Want to be reading a lot of poetry. Poetry is something that I've not read as much of this year because I used to read like full collections. And now the poetry I read is the poetry I come across either in magazines, so it's like one poem on its own, or that I come across online, which is again one poem on its own. I want to read more like collections. I really like collections, and when they're really cohesive, it makes me happy. So I definitely want to get back to reading some poetry. The next one is more reading when I'm at home alone. So one thing that I used to always do, I've done it for years and years and years, and I've got out of the habit of it this year, is that when I was at home alone, or even just like when I was at my mum and dad's, I'd just take myself away and do it anyway. Sitting down, either in a comfy chair, probably have a pile of like 3 to 5 books, light some candles, put some chill music on, and I would just spend my night reading, like a little date with myself, reading the books I want to read in comfy pyjamas. Sounds like the smallest thing ever, but I don't do that anymore, and that's something that I used to really enjoy doing, and I have the space to do it. Obviously, like I've said, my fiance works nights a lot. I have the time to do that, but I've just not been doing. Whenever I'm on my own, I'm either writing or yeah, just doing other things. I have been doing a lot of embroidery, which I'm fine with because embroidery is something that is a chill hobby that I have that I enjoy doing. So I'm fine when I do that. Reading's just not being a thing that I'm reaching for. And again, like I've said, I am not happy with that. Kind of tying into that is reading at night time before I go to sleep as well. I've got into the habit of being on my phone, which I'd really got myself out of the habit of. I don't like it. I don't think it's good for my sleep. It just makes it take a lot longer for me to actually get to sleep if I've just been on my phone. I did the thing that I think a lot of people have done over the last year or two. I downloaded TikTok and basically just end up scrolling TikTok for like an hour when I go to bed, and so I hate it. I hate doing that. This is not how I want to go to sleep. And so yeah, I want to get back into just reading a little bit, and I have been doing that. Me and my fiance read together sometimes, so if we're going to bed together, I don't go on my phone as much because we'll read a book together. A lot of the time, like I said, she's not there, she works nights, and so I'm just on my phone, and I hate it. I do not want to do that anymore. Then there's getting back into audiobooks, which I mentioned before, so I'm not going to talk about that much, but I used to have audiobooks on all the time when I was at work because I have a lot of like admin. I'm a librarian, so it's just a lot of book admin. I'm fine just to listen to audiobooks. I do still listen to stuff. I listen to a lot of podcasts now, which I don't hate myself for, but again, the podcasts I'm listening to are about writing, so I'm still constantly just writing. And again, it's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. I think I just really need a lot more break from it because I'm putting way too much pressure on myself and making it my life, and I don't want it to be something that is in every single bit of my life, because even though I love it and even though it's what I want to do with myself, I do want to have breaks from it so that I don't get burnt out. And then the last goal is making YouTube videos about books. I really miss making YouTube videos. I have mentioned it before, but we used to have my fiance's cousin living with us as a lodger. It was lovely, don't get me wrong, but there's just a lot of awkwardness with filming YouTube videos. You are just talking at a camera. It does feel weird. It's just, yeah, it's an odd thing to do, and so I wouldn't do that in any communal space. Like, this is our living room, I wouldn't have done that in here. And then obviously if I was in my bedroom doing it, well, then he can hear me and it sounds like I'm talking to myself. So I didn't do it, and again, writing took over, and so it's just not something that I have been doing, and I've been sad about that. And I've missed making YouTube videos, and I really enjoyed making YouTube videos, so my goal is to get back to doing that. Even if I only post like one video a month, I don't care. Just that I'm posting some will be good for me, will make me happy. And to be honest, I'm going to be batch filming a few videos anyway. I'm off at the minute because I have COVID. Not that bad, I just like have headaches and a weird rash that apparently is a thing that kids get when they have infections, so apparently I'm a child. So I'm going to be at home and I'm going to batch film some videos, and then obviously I'm off 2 weeks over Christmas. So yeah, just going to be getting some videos filmed so that hopefully if I've pre-filmed a few, it'll be a lot easier to kind of get things up, if that makes sense, because I've got a few already done. My coffee has gone cold and I have another half of this video to film, so that is very, very sad and unfortunate. But anyway, they were all my reading goals, and now I'm going into my writing goals. So I have said that obviously I don't want to spend as much time writing. Now, I don't want to be any less productive than I have been this year, which may sound stupid, but like I said, like if I have a weekend where she's on nights and I'm not doing anything, I'll commit like 2 days to writing. And in actual fact, I'll probably write for 2 hours on the Saturday and 2 hours on the Sunday, but I spend my entire day on it, which I'm not going to do anymore. I'm still hoping to be as productive as I have been, because I still want to be spending a lot of time on writing, but I just want to be more focused and more do the work and then stop, because I don't want to constantly be spending all of my time on something that I'm not actually making any progress with, because yeah, I like productivity. So my writing goals for the year. I'm going to go through them vaguely because I don't really like talking about it too much. First one is to finish a first draft of a romance book that I have written. So this is one that I've been hoping to write for ages. I've had planned for ages and just not got around to. I started writing it during NaNoWriMo. NaNoWriMo is harder than it sounds. At the beginning of November, it's like, oh, 50,000 words, I can definitely do that. I could not do that. I just can't. I did write like 28,000, I think, which I'm more than happy with, so happy. And I've probably written maybe a quarter of it. I want to finish the first draft of that this year. No editing for it, I literally just want to finish the first draft. Then the next one is to work on sci-fi short stories and be like submitting them once I've edited them. So I've got, I'm just going to call it a tree story, clone story, a story about cheating, and then a story about bodies. Let's say it that way. So that's 4 that I definitely want to work on as soon as possible, get written, get edited, and get sent out. Basically, I think there's around 10 stories that I have come up with really good ideas and premises for, and they all tie together really well because they all have like a sci-fi vein running through them. If I could manage to publish a few and kind of get some interest, it would be a good option for a short story collection because they all tie together really well genre wise. They're very like Black Mirror-ish type of stories. Definitely want to be working on those and chipping away at them. Then we have blog posts. So I have a website that I started this year because I published a book this year. So I published a few things, but one of the things is that I published a poetry collection, which I'm super proud of. I basically made a website really fast because I wanted to be able to have my website on my book so that people could actually find me. Yeah, I have a website, which is something that I want to work on this year. It's a very like bare bones thing at the minute, but it's got all of my published stuff on, so that's kind of what I wanted it for. I want to be putting blog posts on there. One I've actually already written and drafted. I'm going to be starting putting them on in January and try to do like one every 2 weeks, I think. Then we've got resubmitting the ice skating poem. So I wrote a poem about an ice skater and got a, I don't know what they call it. It's like the best rejection, basically. So you have like a standard rejection where they're like, oh, we don't really like your work. Then you have a, this wasn't really for us, but we really like the way you write. Please like submit things you write in the future. And then the highest tier of rejection is, we really loved this work, we wanted to publish this work, but you know, it needed some edits or it wasn't right for this specific magazine that we're making, but please resubmit it. I got one of those from a magazine that basically said, we really loved the poem, but the poem has a very specific structure, and they said that even though they loved it and they really wanted to publish it in this issue because it was a winter issue and obviously ice skating goes well with that, they said that they found the structure of it distracted from the actual poem as it got to the end, so they thought that it probably could do with another 2 or 3 rounds of edits, and that they definitely wanted me to send it back to them and said when the submissions opened and all that sort of stuff. So obviously I'm going to be editing that and sending that back to them. That's a priority because it sounds like I could get published in that. That's the next goal. Then we have that I need to get a redraft of AEU done. I'm just calling it AU because I don't want to say what it's actually called. Basically, editing's really hard and I've still not got my head around how to edit a book. I think I'm technically going to say that I'm starting the third draft because all edits I've done so far haven't really worked. I just want to put to bed the idea of a second draft because I've been in it for so long and I'm just not making enough progress. So I want to put that to bed, restart it all with a third draft, start fresh. Yeah, try a different tact. I don't know whether to just rewrite the whole thing and do it that way because that's the way that I've edited. Well, I've not edited, I lost a book and I rewrote the whole thing and it actually turned out better because I'd already told myself the story. So when I rewrote it, it came out a lot better. So I don't know whether to just rewrite it because at least I know I can do that and it works. We're going to be trying to get a redraft of that done. Then we have first draft of Shed Girl. This is a short story that's not called Shed Girl, it's called something else, but actually I always end up calling it Shed Girl, which is really annoying because I don't think I'm ever gonna reveal the name because I'm always gonna think of it as being called Shed Girl, but it's not gonna be called that. But yeah, this is a like magical realism short story that I've probably drafted about half of, so I want to get back to. Lastly is think about, so there's a poetry collection I want to write, but all I know is it's around a concept. So I know what the concept is, I know what I want to write about, and I just want to not write it, but just get some initial writings done, kind of know where I'm going with it, how many poems I want to be in it, get some ideas for what poems. I think at the minute I've probably done about 10% of in the initial like idea. I want to get to like 100% of the idea, and then whenever I write things I have brainstorming of it, then I have an initial write-ins, and then I have the actual thing. So I want to kind of get the brainstorm and the initial write-ins done. So the initial write-ins is like if there's any, like normally I'll like write a paragraph and be like, this is an amazing paragraph, this needs to go in it, but it could go anywhere. I tend to do that a lot. So we're gonna basically have done the brainstorm and the initial write-ins and be hoping to start writing it probably next year because there's a lot of things on this list that I want to do. I just don't think I should aim to do the full thing, but that'll be very much like this because this is very much a concept, like the whole thing is the story of a breakup but it's told in poems sort of thing. So yeah, it'll be a bit similar to this one. And yeah, they are all my reading and writing goals for 2022. I feel like there's a lot on the list, but also I really have stuck, like with the writing I really have stuck with all the things that are priorities, and actually a lot of them are like short stories and poetry which don't take that long. It's just redrafting an AU is going to be the biggest thing ever and I don't know if I'm going to manage it, and then finishing the first draft of the romance book is going to be a lot. The other things I think are very easy and doable. I will obviously let you know because I'm going to be making YouTube videos again because it's in my goals. Thank you very much for watching, and yeah, I will see you in my next video. Bye!